my boys to get the
Okay,
kids.
it's my privilege tonight to introduce our speaker, Kim Izor, who's a 10-year member of the Miamisburg Historical Society and curator for the Miamisburg Museum. We've been working together for a little over a year now to look into the possibilities or the actual movement of a new Mound Discovery Center in the Carnegie building in Miamisburg. This effort was created because DOE has ended funding for keeping the museum in operation here, and in meeting with the city of Miamisburg, they had an interest of maintaining a presence in the city to honor the accomplishments of the employees that were here at the Mound site. Kim will talk a little bit about the history of the Carnegie Library building and talk about the plans for its renovation and its future uses. Welcome, Kim. Thank you.
Thank you. It's about a 3-hour presentation, so it's actually somewhat concise. We have not settled on the name. Tribute Center has been bandied about as a tribute to the veterans and the first responders. Don't quote me on that. And then I did not know what to call the Mound Science and Energy Museum, so that needs to be discussed too. Probably Mound Discovery Center may have been more appropriate, but this is just kind of an overview of where we are now. In the beginning, there's the park. What we now know as Veterans Park was the city's second cemetery. They had the first one is at First and Central, and when they opened this one in 1850, they moved the bodies from First and Central to this cemetery. It was on the east side of town. It was actually kind of out from anybody at the time, if you can believe that, up 5th Street. So they moved it out, and in 1864 they founded Hillgrove, and they moved some of the bodies, but not all of the bodies at that time from that cemetery. This was used until about 1880s sometime as a cemetery. It used to be surrounded by a white picket fence to keep the grounds holy and sacred. Once they moved all the bodies, they decided to make it a city park, cleverly called the Park. That's when a lot of the landscaping was done and the circular sidewalks were first set up. Kind of a European look to it. And then there was a group of ladies called the Monday Night Club. About 1893 they formed. There was a bunch of female school teachers as a literary club. Women school teachers had very little maneuverability in those days. They had to be single. So they formed this club to get together and have a social life and to do literature and do research. About 1908, they realized that the city was really lacking in that capability as a public library. We had a small lending library, but nothing formal. And of course, the schools had libraries. So they found out about Andrew Carnegie was offering money to build libraries. So they approached the mayor of Miamisburg, who sent off a letter requesting funds from the Carnegie. In 12 days, they got an affirmative reply that they would provide $12,500 to build a library, with the provision that it always remain a public building, even if it was not a library. And they had to agree to spend 10% of the endowment per year on maintenance. So $1,250 per year for maintenance in perpetuity. So today that won't get you a whole lot, but so it was used as a library. The cornerstone was laid in 1909. That's the picture there on the right. That's a glass plate slide that we have. And on 5/10/10, they had the grand opening. And it was a beautiful building, had a clay tile roof. This postcard is compliments of Bob Bowman. So that is the oldest photo we have of the Carnegie as it stood. It was used as a library until 1981, when the new building was built, which is the home of the History Center. It's kind of a view of the park. You've got the fountain in the middle. The fountain was added in 1965. It used to be a horse watering trough for the horses of the fire department. When they mechanized, they put the fountain in storage. Years later, actually the McGuire sisters' mother was the mayor of Miamisburg at the time, and she knew that that was in storage and where it was, and she insisted to be put back in the park, or in the park. So in 1965, they moved it to the park. Kind of a center point now for it. And again, it's got the European look to it, the circular walkways. Ultimately, when we're done, the Carnegie is up at the, I'm not sure if the laser pointer is working. There we go. Oh, I have to hold it, okay. The Carnegie is up at the top, and they've got a radial sidewalk down to the fountain, and then we'll have a radial sidewalk out to the History Center. Right now the doors are on the back side. We're going to put a door in the front, so you can just go out the front door of the History Center and go over to the Carnegie. That's what it looks like today. What is it doing? So there's the front and the back. It needs help. The front doors are not even close to the original. Originally had glass doors. They are in very bad shape. The library, rather than retuck pointing the brick, used caulk, which is not a good idea. So all of the caulk needs to be taken out, and then the building retuck pointed. They added this stage in the front. There's a very talented architect from the University of Cincinnati who was hired to do that, and he said, you don't want to do that. And they said, we're going to do that. So he did it under protest. He added this stage. I happen to know him, and he was not happy with it, but that's what we wanted. To the left is just kind of a dead end, and to the right, there's a handicap ramp that leads off of that. Our plan is to take all of that off. One of the problems is they built up against the brick with dirt for the handicap ramp, thinking brick is impervious to water, and it's actually a sponge. So it's pulled water through the bricks and scalded all the plaster off on the inside. It's in the stairway to the basement, so it's kind of ugly. And that's just a picture of the eaves. It was a very modern building for 1910. What they call ribbon windows, which they're just all continuous ribbon of windows. It was fairly new concept. And it's got a lot of details on the overhang. This is the first floor. There's the entrance on the left. You can kind of see off to, there's two wings. You walk in from what would be on the far left side. You can go left or right into the wings, or you can go straight into the rotunda, which is a magnificent room. Even as a kid, it was like, this is so special. And then they hung the lights to detract from it. Back to the entrance, has really beautiful cross-beam ceiling, which is falling down. That long opening on the left used to have two load-bearing walls in it. The library took them out and didn't do anything to put them back. So the ceiling is falling. We noticed there's a sag. It's about a 4-inch sag. We thought a beam had failed. We got brave, went up in the attic, and there was no beam ever there. So it's just been simply sagging ever since they took it out. We believe in the 80s, 70s or 80s. So unfortunately, to repair it, we have to take the entire ceiling down. But again, the rotunda is just a beautiful room. That will be the veterans area. One of the wings will be police, one of the wings will be fire, and then the lower level, which is pretty sad right now, the lower level will be the future home of the Mound Discovery Center. Again, you have the rotunda area. The library hung all of the refrigerant lines for the air conditioners on cat tracks underneath. That's all coming out. Here's just a very simple floor plan. You come in at the front, and then there's this center area. A lot of this is coming out. This is all superfluous walls. There'll be fire, police, and then the whole center section will be the veterans. The basement has the mechanicals over on the left, so that space is lost. Again, we're taking the handicap ramp down, but there's a handicap ramp into the basement. So that area will become an elevator up into the upstairs. So the handicapped entrance will be actually through the Mound Discovery Center. And if you want to go upstairs, you can take the elevator. Somewhere around 1,400 square feet in the basement. This is the quotation drawings, gives you some idea of the extent. There's an architect in town, Laura Bornhorst, which is extremely good architect. She did Chump's Addition, if you're familiar with their little patio, and lots of other things around town. She's been working on this for months, extremely detailed. Again, just some idea of what all we need to do to it. She is a very good artist. She does a lot of renderings for other architects. So she's drawn this for us. Again, you can see the front is restored back to what that first postcard looked like. One of the things that we're doing is putting a cross-beam ceiling to mimic that cross-beam that's in the front. We're going to put a radial beam ceiling in that rotunda to carry that all the way through. These are back at the back. They did not photograph well, but it's got all the renderings of what the different areas will be. That's really it in a nutshell. Where we are is kind of in limbo right now. The quotes are due December 1st. We've went to 4 local contractors. At least one of them has backed out. They said it's beyond what they want to tackle. It's not really in their what they want to do, but we know of at least 2 that are actively working to have us quotes by December 1st. Ryan Davis from the Parks and I will, and others from the Historical Society will review it, agree that, yeah, this looks like it's a doable project, figure out how to split the pie. The city does the bones of the building. They did put a new roof on it this year. They committed to do some of the basics like HVAC. It needs a whole new HVAC. Anything inside, probably on the Historical Society. Certainly flooring, painting, displays. If we agree to go forward, then Parks and Rec will present it to City Council, and they'll have to say yay or nay, and hopefully we get it in the 2026 budget. What we've done is we're getting estimates, not technically quotes. The city has to go out for quotes. The Historical Society is getting estimates. So they'll go back to the same vendors and open up for an open bidding process to whoever else wants to quote on the project. We'll come to terms and hopefully kick it off, go out for some serious fundraising. And our goal is to have it finished in 2026. Ideally, it would be done by July 4th, America 250. And it's fairly optimistic. It's still possible, but and so we have a lot of things to discuss. Naming of the building for one, of the different museums inside of it. And what we plan on doing is moving our veterans displays from the current history center over there and kind of operate them both in parallel. So I will open it up for any questions or comments. Yes.
So, back to Carnegie.
Yes.
And all the libraries he got going in the United States, of which this was one.
Mm-hmm.
How much did he put into it versus how much the locale had to put into it in order to get one?
To my knowledge, he paid for the building. The $12,500 was the building. We had to commit to furnish it. So the Monday Night Club did all the fundraising to furnish it. I'm not sure who paid the architectural fees. It was Frank L. Packard, which is an architect out of Columbus. He also did the Parkview Church, the stone church. You'll notice they both had clay tile roofs. He's actually somewhat famous, so we've had someone come down and research the building who has followed Frank L. Packard. Was kind of interested in where his building stood. Unfortunately, a lot of the Carnegie libraries are not in existence anymore. The one in Germantown is their historical society. The one in Middletown collapsed. The roof fell in. I don't know if I'm sure it'll be raised. But interestingly enough, the Carnegie Foundation still is in existence, and they are offering grants for America 250 if you are still using your library as a public building. So we will be applying for that and seeing if we can get some funding to help restore this. Yes?
Do you have any idea right now how much money you're going to have to raise next year?
A lot.
A lot. And part of what the Historical Society has to raise is dependent on how the city and us split the pie. But we're looking at somewhere, again, don't quote me, 800,000, give or
I was
take.
expecting 7 figures, so I mean, we're already off to a great start.
We're hoping to keep it under 7 figures,
Yeah,
but we're going to be, skirting 7 figures, but. And of course, things continue to go up, but we're kind of looking at the $800,000 range. And if you're a contractor listening, we're actually going to spend $500,000. Yes. Oh, you scratching your head or raising?
Me?
Yeah.
Because there were all these libraries, you mentioned a couple of the others that are probably in the local area that maybe are going to be restoring or be raised, you said. I would assume there's a real movement across the country in a lot of communities to renovate their Carnegie libraries. I was just wondering, is there a movement to do that, or is everything just totally independent?
I don't know of any organized movement. That is actually a good. I hit something. That's actually a good point. That's something I should look into to see if there's other groups that are perhaps
Because they could share architects and
right.
ideas.
Yeah, yeah. It's if you haven't been to the Germantown, they've done a nice job preserving theirs, and it's their historical society. It's smaller than ours, and it was never quite as fancy, but we have a very fancy one with all the brickwork was quite ornate. We've got the terracotta entrances and the eagles. It was a first-class building when it was built. And it's still got good bones. It's got a lot of moisture infiltration problems just because of the way they graded the ground, but once that's all dug away and the additions taken off the front, we believe it's still going to be a very solid building. That the city and us are kind of looking at a 100-year project, to make it last the next 100 years before we have to do anything. We're looking at all new doors and windows, new flooring. I'll put a plug in if anyone is interested. The Historical Society is having a fundraiser that we call the Holly and Ivy on Friday the 5th of December. It's $25 a person. You have to pay in advance so we know how much food to get, but you get to see inside the Carnegie.
What did you call it?
Holly and Ivy.
Holly,
Holly and Ivy. I should have brought a flyer, but if you go to historicalmiamisburg.org, you can find information there, or you can see me after the presentation. I'll be happy to take your $25. But it should be a good time. It's hors d'oeuvres and wine and water and just hanging out inside the Carnegie, which no one has done for a very long time.
How's that being advertised locally?
It's through the Historical Society. It's on our website and Facebook and that. I don't think there's any other formal advertising.
The funds from that are going to be seed money for this, or no, it's all going to be spent on the wine and the refreshments?
Actually, the board of directors provides all the food. So it's all going to be other than a few minor expenses, it's all going to be towards the Carnegie. And we're going to wait until we know a firm ballpark price anyway, before we start fundraising. So we know whether we're asking for $200,000 or $400,000 or $600,000. Again, it's depending on how the city and us negotiate. The city is very committed. It was taken out of service as a library in 1981. It's never really found a good use. And if any of you know Ted Fink, he actually, they kicked off a renovation project back in the 80s on the library, and Ted Fink was the head of that. Ted Fink is heading up this project after his wife told him to. But he's an ex Air Force, very, very knowledgeable in old buildings. He and his brother owned a lot of buildings downtown, so he is a great asset to be running this project for the History Society.
You made some intriguing remark about details in the eaves, but I didn't hear you say anything else. Did you have pictures, or do you have some comments on what the eaves details are?
How do I get back to this? Whoop.
I did have a question. Can you go back one or two slides?
Oh, sure.
One more. There. You see the PE's name on it, that maybe his drawings. Do you know anything about who designed the building or who designed the park in the beginning?
Who designed? I believe who designed the park is lost to history.
Okay.
I think it just kind of evolved. Went from cemetery, and then once they removed the tombstones, it's like people started hanging out there, and then they decided to call it the park.
Okay.
This
That wasn't a big historical event to...
No, it just kind of evolved.
Spring Grove.
Right. As far as the Carnegie, it was Frank L. Packard from Columbus designed the building. At that point, it became Library Park. I don't know if, again, that was official or just kind of said, well, let's go to the park with the library, and they named it Library Park. And in 2017, in honor of our veterans, they named it Veterans Park, which, by the way, there's stones in the front of the park on Central Avenue for a lot of the veterans, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. There is none for the Revolutionary War, which we were working with the American Legion to correct, and there'll be a stone or a plaque placed this year, next year for 2025 or 2026 for our Revolutionary War soldiers.
And you were going to comment back to my question about the eaves.
Yeah. There.
Is that, it's not clear to me what that is depicting. Are those...
This is looking up,
Yeah.
and so,
It's for the overhang.
yeah, it's the overhang.
Is there work to be done?
Yeah, there's a lot of peeling paint, but there's little details on each one. There's like a little round with a little point hanging down. It's hard to see, but it's almost like a finial hanging upside down.
So these are not individual faces or quotations from antiquity or anything?
No,
They're
no.
uniform?
They're uniform. They appear to be in pretty good shape, actually. There's a few that maybe have some issues, but it's a pretty substantial overhang. It's probably a good 2 to 2.5 feet. It all needs scraped and painted. And then we hope to replace the windows. They're all the original single panes. They have plexiglass over the front to act as a protector and kind of a storm window. The plexiglass is all turned milky. So we have several options on the windows, from full replacement to reglazing with double pane with real divided lights, or with those snap-in divided lights. We're looking at all kinds of options of that, what makes the most sense. We want to make it look historic, but also be a little bit more aesthetic and energy efficient at the same time.
Any original books from the library that you would put on display?
That's a really good question. I'll have to look through our archives and see if we have some. They would not have stayed with the library once it went to the Montgomery County. I'm sure they got rid of all the books of that era, but we might have some of the librarians that have donated them back to the Historical Society. Like, you know, if any of you grew up here, Levita Bowers was principal of Kinder forever. When she passed, we have a lot of her things. So if she had any of those books, she was probably a member of the Monday Night Club. So there's a possibility that we do have some. That's very good. You guys have given me a couple of good suggestions, so we'll go back and look. Anything else? Yeah,
I have a question.
uh-huh.
What are, just a different question, are you, as a curator, what's your responsibilities, what are your duties as a curator for the museum?
Officially or actually? Other duties as assigned. The curator is responsible for determining what is in the collection, what to add to the collection, what to dispose of, how to dispose of it, and actually cataloging it. And right now, I work with the displays a lot when they want to put out a new display of some sort, helping to figure out what we have. 2 years ago, we went to a new software system that's all computerized. It's got a really remarkable search function. So it's really helped cataloging everything. We had a lot of items that weren't necessarily cataloged completely, so we're working on that. And then also working with new technology. We're doing a lot with AI to help. We have about maybe 48 inches of information on the Miamisburg Mound, most of which was redundant or you know, unusable in that volume. So we scanned it all and then used AI to give us a concise report of the Miamisburg Mound. It has all the details and it's readable and it's about 40 pages. So a lot of that and exploring different uses for AI. We've got a couple of technical guys that are working on interfaces that you can just ask it a question and it will go out and research it for you and come back with an answer. So that's kind of in a nutshell, it's pretty much all of the items in the collection. And so when we start working with the group here to assimilate all of this, you know, it'll be up to the curator to figure out what to do with it, how to display it, of course working with these guys too, but and then how to store it if it's not on display. Other duties as assigned.
There was some discussion here, somebody talked about you having like interactive displays. Is that something that you've considered, or I mean, have you thought about that?
We have thought about it. We've actually talked with some of our vendors about it. We've actually talked with the one of the directors of the displays at the Air Force Museum. Who lives in Kettering, is a son of a friend. Came down and spent a day with us and kind of straightened us around. We were thinking QR codes is the way to go. You walk up with your phone. He said, absolutely not. If somebody, especially a younger person or anybody, pulls out their phone, well, then they look to see what the weather is. Oh, look, somebody texted me, and he said, absolutely not. You will not find one in the Air Force Museum except at the very entrance. So that kind of was an eye-opener, because it's like we're going to go down the wrong path very quickly. And he also gave us a lot of information on displays, font sizes, no more than 300 words. Keep it in patches so you don't feel like you're overwhelmed. You know, even if you want to tell a long story, break it up with photos. And so a lot of good information like that. We kind of touched on interactive displays. There's a lot of different feelings on that. I've seen some really good ones. I've seen some really bad ones. So right now, we haven't moved in that direction. We're actually working with Curator, which has done a lot of design work for other historical societies and museums, the Ronald Reagan Museum, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, just to name a few small ones, to see they're kind of leaning towards a couple, but not like overwhelming. More possibly towards like a theater area where you can sit down and view 2 or 3 different films or select your own, but not standalones all over the place, because people again get burned out on things. So yeah, we will probably have some as we move forward.
Thank you.
How many? Do you know how many original Carnegie libraries there were? And maybe what,
I do not. There were, I'm gonna guess 1,000. I mean, he had a lot of money and he was very generous with it. And if you applied and you met, basically, you had to provide the land, the city had to provide the land and commit to 10% of whatever he gave you per year and furnish it. And once you met those criteria, you had a library. So I'm thinking it's probably 1,000. He was, it was quite a project, and to get an answer in 12 days is like, that's pretty remarkable. Even today, it had to go by train to New York and then back, so. Anything else? Yeah.
What, nerd question, what kind of software, oh my God, cataloging software did you guys recently get?
We went with Proficio for
Okay.
rediscovery.
Does that have any online capability?
Yes, we're actually online.
Sick. Okay, so like, people can go in and like, look at everything?
Yes,
Great.
we have scanned about 7,000 photos. Most of the school yearbooks, including grade school yearbooks and high school yearbooks and junior high yearbooks. We've got, I think, pretty much every photo that we own is scanned. That's not huge. You know, if it's scannable 11 by 17, it's scanned already. You can go to historicalmiamisburg.org, and there's a digital assets tag, or I can give you a card that goes directly to our digital assets.
All right.
It's a pretty powerful search engine on there.
I have heard good things about it, but I was just curious, like, whether or not, yeah.
We looked at 13 softwares. We got it down to 6. We got it down to 3. The 3 gave us sandboxes to play in, and there was no question. Their search capabilities are beyond everybody. So, yeah, we're just thrilled with it. You call them, there's somebody there. I think the average tenure at their company is somewhere around 30 years. So it's like they all know it by heart. So, yeah, it's been quite good. And, you know, we're working with Dayton History, some of the digital files here that Dayton History has scanned, we're going to integrate into our system as
So I was
well.
gonna ask, like, does it have, could you port a past perfect catalog into it? Do you know if it's capable of
Yes,
that?
yes, actually,
Fantastic.
you know,
Okay.
Past Perfect is kind of the elephant in the room. So
Tell me about it.
pretty much any competitor will port Past Perfect to their system for free.
Okay, all right, I'm just curious at this point.
Yes.
That would be real nice, especially once these guys start
Yes.
integrating and everything, so.
Yeah, and that's one of the, actually one of the nice things about Past Perfect, because everybody has a migration path from Past Perfect. If you have an obscure one, you might not be able to migrate from that to somebody else.
Yeah.
But Past Perfect, they've all got it nailed. So, yeah, we looked at them and it's like, it's no comparison. So, we can talk later if you want.
Maybe.
Anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Just to let you all know, there'll be no talk in December. We will pick back up in January, and it will be a Zoom-based talk. We will put out the information. We will probably have the Zoom part of it here, but you'll also be able to watch at home on Zoom. There will be notices put out.